News Radio, Wham 1180, welcomes you to The Seniors Rock Show. The Seniors Rock Show, a lively weekly discussion, shedding a bright light on aging with fun, entertainment, and important info for all adults. Join us with your comments or questions. Call or text 222-1180 or 1-800-295-1180. Now, from the News Radio Wham 1180 studios in downtown Rochester, here's your host, Joanna Palvino.
Well, good morning and welcome to the show. I am Joanna, and I'm here with my co-host, estate planning attorney Michael Robinson of the Law Office of Michael Robinson, and also Pam, our traveling producer, is back today. Hi, guys. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good morning. Happy Saturday.
Thank you. And I'm happy to see you both. And you're going to be listening a lot today because today is all about listening. And on the radio, that's very important, as we all know. Hearing is also very important. And we use it for just about everything we do. And our guests today, guests, plural, will give us some good reasons to pay attention to our ears and to hearing. We've asked Hart Hearing and Balance Center's audiologists, Dr. Ali Centola and Dr. Sarah Hodgson, to join us this hour. And they've got some really great expert advice on maintaining healthy hearing, and we all need that. So at Hart Hearing and Balance Centers, by the way, they provide hearing solutions to fit every lifestyle and every budget. So I hope you'll stay with us this hour. You're going to be surprised at some of the things you learn about hearing from our guests today. And if you got a question or a comment, don't forget we're here till noon. We are live, so you can give us a call. We always appreciate your participation, whether you leave a message with Pam and she tells us, what your question is, or you can join us on the air. We'd love to hear from you, and that's what we're all about here is you. And we're about healthy aging and having some fun while we're doing it. So I hope you'll join us if you're so inclined. Now, the sponsors that we support the production of this program, this very show, including Hart Hearing and Balance Centers, are all local, most family owned, and they're businesses that are dedicated to enriching lives in our community at every single age. Okay, so you'll hear the messages today. Please go to them. If you're out there and you're looking for services or goods, go to seniorsrockradio.com and check out the show sponsors because they are here for you. And I hope that you will also support them. And they never disappoint. All of them are excellent businesses. And again, you won't be disappointed if you go to any of them and talk to them. Hey, tell me you heard it on the show. And somebody else who doesn't disappoint is my co-host, attorney Mike Robinson. How you doing today, Mike? What's on your mind?
Hey, Joanna. Well, like everybody, kind of keeping an eye on the weather, of course. But what I wanted to talk about today is a question that I do get fairly often, and that is when people are in a nursing home and they're having to self-pay. They'll wonder where's the best place to take that money from. They may have money in a bank account. They may have money in a retirement account. They may have money in a non-qualified brokerage account, but they're wondering what's the best place from which to draw the money. That's going to be, specific to each scenario. But one thing I did want to just alert people to is so often the last place they want to take the money from is a retirement account. And a retirement account for most people, that's either an IRA, a 401k, or a 403b. And they're afraid to take that money out because of the tax implications. So a couple of things, just from a base level, remember somebody's going to pay tax on that money at some point. And whether you, as the account owner during your lifetime, are taking money out, whether it's required minimum distributions or other distributions, you pay tax on that money. But remember, your heirs are going to pay tax on that money when you pass away. And under the Secure Act, for almost everybody that would be impacted, they're going to have to take that money out over a 10-year period. So there's going to be some, depending on the size of the account, some significant income tax consequences to them. So,
as always.
Yeah. And so just from a general standpoint, we always want to think about who's going to be paying at the higher tax rate? Because if we have the ability to deflect those taxes onto somebody who would be paying at a lower rate, that's of course a more tax efficient way to get that money out. But back to the long-term care situation, if someone is in a nursing home, they are going to have significant medical expense deductions that are going to help offset the taxes that would have to be paid from drawing money off of that retirement account. And with area nursing homes running anywhere from 16,000 maybe on the low end to 18 to $20,000 a month, which is more typical. Obviously, over the course of 7 months, that produces some huge medical expenses. And even with the standard deduction that most people probably take now, once those medical expenses exceed 7.5% of your adjusted gross income, they are deductible. And so you really want to take a look at what is going to be the most tax efficient way to handle this money. And it may be that even though, yes, there's taxable income coming out of that retirement account, when you offset it with the huge medical deduction that you're going to get, it may be a very tax efficient way to actually cover those expenses.
Hmm.
So don't shy away from that. Again, it's very case specific. You really need to run the numbers and be talking to somebody who understands the interplay of the medical expense, the deductions, just investments generally in the performance there. But don't automatically assume that retirement accounts are not the best place from which to draw that money. Very often, Joanna, it is the best place from which to draw those funds.
Good to know. And good to know that there's somebody like you and other estate planning attorneys that can clear these things up because it sounds very complicated to me. I don't know how anyone could figure all this stuff out. Also, because these things change, I think, they're not written in stone and the, like you said, the taxes and those things, it's probably something that you have to keep up with all the time, right?
Sure, and new administration coming in now, and we all have heard about where they're looking to make some cuts, and they're putting together a proposed budget right now. So the tax law could change with respect to what's deductible, what's not deductible. So yeah, you definitely want to be working with a professional. The other thing I should say too, I mentioned nursing home expense because it is so high. But assisted living, maybe not all of that expense, but some of that typically is able to be taken as a deduction as well. So
Oh,
again, you really just want to make sure you're talking with your tax advisor, that you're keeping good records, making sure that you provide those expense sheets to the tax advisor so that they can advise you as to what's going to make the most sense on your income tax return.
well, you make it sound very easy that, you got the flow going there, but thank you for clearing that up. And I'm sure that there's people out there that are listening that may have had those questions. And if you do have a question, folks, I don't know that I gave the phone number the last time there, but you're welcome to call. And we are live, and it's 585 uh, 585-222-1180. Or if you're far away, I guess you can use 1-800-295-1180. And we're happy to take your calls or a message through Pam. And today is going to be a day we're kind of dedicating to our ears, Mike. We're going to be talking a lot about hearing. And it was funny when I was putting the music together, by the way, I kind of went on a theme with the Beatles. I was having some nostalgia about the early 60s. And I realized how many songs the Beatles talked about hearing. So you're going to hear those today. See, I
Very
said
good.
here again. It was so funny when I was putting the agenda together. It was funny how many times I kept saying to myself here or, you know, things related to hearing. So we're on a flow here. How's
Yeah,
your
I'm
hearing? How's your
I'm
hearing?
looking forward to it. As you and I have talked about before, I spent a lot of time standing in front of speakers at concerts or
Oh, yeah.
working around power equipment, and
Mhm.
I definitely have some tinnitus. Um, and my wife will tell you that I have other hearing issues, but we'll
I've
we'll
heard that
see.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, they they are experts in these things. And so, and tinnitus, of course, is one of them, but there's also several other things that Heart Hearing and Balance Center specializes in. And you're going to hear about those after the break. And I think it's a very important topic, especially as we're aging, because let's face it, like you said, Mike, we've gone through some wild days in the 60s and 70s, and maybe even like in the 90s. And we're paying for it now if we did go to a lot of concerts and things like that, because if you hurt your hearing, and we're going to hear about this today, there's no coming back. I mean, you have to get some help, and technology is doing that today too. And those are some of the things we're going to talk about later in the show. But first, we're going to have Dr. Ali Centola on. She's an audiologist with Heart Hearing and Balance Center, and she is going to talk about untreated hearing loss. And that will be the topic next on the show. Then after that, we have another doctor on, and she's going to talk about some of the things you can do to resolve those issues. And I'm sure we all know someone who could use some help with hearing. And, whether it's your wife telling you or not, it's worth getting a hearing test for sure. And
Yeah.
in fact, I think I told you before, John, one time when I kept saying, will you turn up the TV? And he says, you really need to get your hearing tested. So I did. I went to Heart Hearing and Balance Center, actually had my hearing tested, and it was fine. We figured out later that the speakers and the TV were facing where he was sitting, but not me. So there was a difference in what we were both hearing. So you
Uh-huh.
never know.
No, you don't. And something we've learned about is that hearing loss can be a contributor to problems with dementia.
Yes,
Uh,
that's right. Could be a kind of a canary in the coal mine, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So all good stuff.
And it looks like Chuck has a comment. Are you there, Chuck?
I
No.
think he's going to wait till after our guest comes on after the
All
break.
right. Awesome. Well, stay tuned, folks. We're going to be with Dr. Ali Centola, audiologist with Heart Hearing and Balance Centers next. Don't go away. It'll be a quick break.
Listen, do you want to know a secret? Do you promise not to tell?
Welcome back to Seniors Rock Radio. And we have a caller. We have Dr. Ali Santola on the line, and we already have a caller for her, and his name is Chuck. Chuck, welcome to the program. What's your question?
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call. The question I have is, I'm 71 years old. My family is telling me that I should get hearing aids. And I tell them that when I was in high school, in the health class, the teacher said any kind of headphones with direct hearing to your ears causes slow damage to your hearing.
Mhm.
Now, is that true?
So yes and no. I always tell patients if they're listening to headphones and someone is within about 3 feet of them and that person can hear what is being played on the headphones, then yes, there is a chance that that is going to cause some permanent hearing loss for that person. So your teacher was not blowing smoke at you. He or she was telling you the truth.
Excellent. Thank you for calling, Chuck. And if you just tuned in, I hope that answers your question. I guess he's gone now. Well, anyway, we're back to you, Dr. Ali Santola, and Mike is going to introduce you. Thank you for calling, Chuck, and we appreciate that.
Sure. And yeah, Chuck, thanks for the question. So yeah, Dr. Ali Centola, among the best audiologists in Rochester at Heart Hearing and Balance Centers, where their primary specialties include hearing loss, tinnitus, balance, and the vestibular system, allowing them to design a patient-specific plan of care. And when not seeing patients, Dr. Ali enjoys outdoor activities like spending time with her family and taking long walks with her German short-haired pointer, Bailey. And Dr. Ellie's main topic today is untreated hearing loss. And Doctor, again, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here.
We are happy to have you. And, Doctor, we know there are millions of Americans that are suffering from hearing loss. It's obvious. And, like I said earlier, there's probably somebody that everybody knows that is having either an issue or is worried about it. But only a
Mhm.
small percentage take action and wear assistive devices. So we're curious. The first question is going to be, What are some of the most common reasons that people say they put off getting a hearing test or hearing aids?
So I found through my experience, there's kind of three main reasons. The first reason a patient might not feel like they really have hearing loss or they don't really need hearing aids. Most of the time, it can be friends or family that might notice a patient's hearing loss first, whether it's, the television being a little louder or the patient saying, huh, or what more often. This is why I usually say hearing loss affects more than just the patient and kind of everyone in their, immediate circle. The
Yeah,
second
that's for
reason
sure.
kind of rolls off of the first, and it has to do with the cost. So if a patient doesn't really feel like they need hearing aids, he or she might not want to, spend the money or make the investment to get them. So it's the patient not finding like a cost benefit ratio.
Mm.
And the third, and I believe really the most important, really has to do with stigma. And while hearing loss does not discriminate, I've fit hearing aids on babies as young as 3 months old. Most
Wow.
of our patient population is above 65.
Mhm.
And really, in my opinion, the only way to combat stigma is to normalize hearing aid usage and then educate patients on the benefit of hearing aids as well as the consequences of untreated hearing loss.
Doctor, can hearing loss ever be corrected on its own?
Um, yes, but for the vast majority of individuals, no. If a hearing loss is being caused by, let's say, an ear infection or someone's ear is filled with wax, then treating the infection or removing the wax can help restore hearing. However, in most cases, hearing loss caused by like the natural aging process or excessive noise exposure, that cannot be corrected on its own.
And doctor, what can happen to someone who either refuses or for whatever reason allows that hearing loss to go untreated?
So this is a really good question. There's been a lot of emerging research over the past few decades showing the risk of untreated hearing loss and the increased risk of cognitive decline. So in a very basic sense, the more hearing loss someone has that goes untreated, so AKA not wearing hearing aids, the higher the risk that individual is at developing cognitive decline. It's pretty compelling research, and it just shows how interconnected the body is and how hearing loss doesn't just affect your ears, it affects your brain as well.
Mhm. If you just tuned in, we're talking to Dr. Ali Centola from Hart Hearing and Balance Centers. We've got about a minute left. Another
Mhm.
question. A lot of people say they can't hear in loud or noisy environments, but how do you really know if it's time to get your hearing checked when that's happening, doctor?
So I always say if a patient's noticing difficulty, whether it's in groups, noisy environments, turning the TV up, asking others to repeat themselves, it's time to get their hearing checked. Or if friends or family members are noticing increased difficulty hearing or patients not engaging as much as they used to, it's time to get the hearing checked. It's never too soon to get a baseline evaluation. And like I mentioned, we expect hearing loss to gradually decline. So getting a baseline test, you can never do that too early.
Makes sense. Thank you so
Uh-huh.
much, doctor. Anything else you want to say before we have to go to break?
No, thank you guys for having me. I hope you have a great day.
And you as well. We'll talk with Dr.
Thank you.
Sarah Hodgson next from Heart Hearing and Balance Centers right after the news on News Radio Wham 1180. Welcome back to Seniors Rock Rochester and Seniors Rock Radio. Joining us now is Heart Hearing and Balance Centers, Dr. Sarah Hodgson. As an audiologist, Dr. Sarah excels at providing health hearing care and is recognized by the American Institute of Balance for providing treatment of balance and vestibular issues. Outside of her audiology practice, Dr. Sarah has two amazing young daughters who keep her very busy and happy, and we're really happy she joined us today. Welcome, Dr. Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me today.
We're happy to
You
have
know,
you. I think you've been here before.
I have, yeah, it's been a while, but I'm glad to be back.
right. And, while we were on break, doctor, we did get a question from a listener. he was indicating that when there's background noise, it
Hmm.
interferes with hearing, and I know that that's fairly common, right? That it's hard to hear conversations when there's a lot of ambient noise. And he wanted to know, is that something a hearing aid could help with?
That's a really good question. Background noise is probably the bane of everybody's existence, hearing loss
Mhm.
or not. And so certainly hearing aids do help with separating what we want to hear and what we don't want to hear. I'm always really honest with my patients that no hearing aid can ever completely eliminate background noise, because even if you don't have hearing issues, you can still have difficulty in complex listening situations. But hearing aid technology has come such a long way that, yes, I would feel confident saying that a hearing aid can help. It's not a perfect fix all, but it certainly is going to make your life easier if you go to a noisy bar or restaurant.
Sure. And you talk about the advances in technology, even
Hmm.
with vision, for example, there's different prescriptions for, different types of visual impairment. Similarly, is that the case with hearing aids and hearing loss?
So hearing aids definitely are prescribed specifically for the type, degree, and configuration of hearing changes. There are three main types of hearing loss: sensory neural, conductive, and mixed. And really, the treatment for each of those can be different. Hearing aids can be effective for most of them, but sometimes people require medical interventions. There are surgeries depending on the type of loss. And so it's really important to have a hearing evaluation to determine what type of loss you have, what the best medical intervention may be, and if potentially you are a hearing aid candidate. Um, and so, yes, you don't want to just kind of wing getting a hearing aid. You want to have real good data to base it off of.
Yeah, just like everything else, don't go to get the information at the coffee shop, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, because we hear a lot of information that isn't correct. So, folks, again, go to
Mhm.
the experts. And in this case, obviously, it's Heart Hearing and Balance Centers. They're great. They're family owned and they've been here a long time. So, I'm going to ask a question now. We were talking about hearing aids, and I know they're barely noticeable these days, Doctor. Can you tell us about some of the new technology and what they do? I think it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, hearing aid technology has changed a lot, I would say, in the past 10 years. People oftentimes come into my office and they remember their hearing aids that their grandparents had. They were big and clunky. They looked like chewed bubble gum in your ear. They squealed and they just didn't do a whole lot. And thank goodness hearing aids have changed drastically. They can be rechargeable. You don't have to change little batteries anymore. They can be water resistant, so they're less susceptible to moisture damage. They can also hook up to anything that has Bluetooth, like telephones, televisions, iPads, whatnot. All of those things are fabulous technologies. But really, the most important thing that I talk to my patients about is hearing aids really help you hear better, than they ever have. Sound quality, sound clarity, processing, the ability to help you hear in background noise. And so that really is the most improvement that I've seen recently. We use artificial intelligence. I know that's kind of a buzzword that people have really strong opinions about, but in hearing aid technology, it's been a really positive thing for improving outcomes.
And doctor, I know, a lot of people wear cheaters, right? Glasses that they can buy
Hmm.
online or at the drugstore, rather than getting a prescription pair of glasses. Can people do the same thing with hearing aids?
That's a really good question. In late 2022, the FDA did clear the path for over the counter devices. And so this has opened up hearing healthcare access to people that potentially otherwise couldn't access it due to cost, prohibitive reasons. And so hearing aids now can be purchased on Amazon, Walmart, pharmacies. And in a lot of ways, that's been a really positive change. But again, kind of going back to my first point, which is it's so important to see either an audiologist or an ears, nose, and throat doctor to make sure that there isn't anything else medically going on that could be contributing to your hearing change. Something as simple as wax in the ears, you don't want to buy even an over-the-counter hearing aid if that's not an appropriate, fit. And
Right.
oftentimes these are self-fit devices. So if you're not particularly tech savvy, that can be really challenging. And so, do your research, make sure you know exactly what you're purchasing, what you're getting, and at a minimum, get a hearing test. That way you know exactly what's going on, and that way you can make an informed decision.
Excellent advice, Dr. Sarah Hodgson. This is Dr. Sarah is with Heart Hearing and Balance Center, and I have to say we got another message. We're getting a lot of response here from the listeners, and someone just said that one of the audiologists, I don't know which one of you, but she said she works with you and that you're wonderful, and she said that I hope that this show encourages people that hearing aids can change your life, and obviously they changed
Mhm.
hers. So thank you for that message. And I'll ask you real quick, Doc, is there anything you want people to know about hearing loss before we have to go?
I think to piggyback off of that last comment, hearing aids and hearing loss can really change your quality of life. Obviously, being an audiologist, I love the ear. The ear is kind of my, favorite body part. But hearing loss doesn't really affect just your ear. It affects your emotional, social, medical well-being. And so we know that there are treatment options available that can really improve your quality of life, your ability to communicate with friends and family. And so it's really important to be proactive and do something about it and make your life easier.
Yep. Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah Hodgson. Please, folks, go to Heart Hearing and Balance Centers. They're the best, and I hope that you'll enjoy the rest of your weekend, Dr. Sarah. And, folks, you will love what you hear at Heart Hearing and Balance Centers. You can call them at 266-4130 or go to hearthearing.com. Now, stay tuned because we're going to be right back with more of the Seniors Rock Radio Show right after the break. Welcome back to Seniors Rock Radio. We're in the final stretch here, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. I certainly have, and I thank the audiologists from Heart Hearing and Balance Center for joining us today. We got a great response, and we thank you listeners for doing that. I also wanted to say something which is very upbeat, and that's a congratulations to Touching Hearts at Home for receiving a Globe Award, and that is highlighting the impressive reach and impact that their home healthcare service has in the community. So congratulations. Caregivers are so important. Thank you. Nice. Thanks, Pam. We'd also like to give a nod to someone you're gonna know who I'm talking about here, who was a women's rights activist at a time when it was considered improper for a woman to even speak in public. Look at us now. Listen to me. A feminist a century before the word was coined, and one of the reasons why women got the vote. She didn't live to see that day, so today we're going to celebrate National Susan B. Anthony Day. Wow, we're getting crazy here with all the celebrating. Mike, do you have anything to add?
Well, not for Susan B. Anthony Day, although that's certainly something to celebrate. I wanted to just go back to one of the things that one of our guests talked about as to why people don't wear hearing aids and the stigma that's attached to it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that occurred to me is that, we don't think twice about wearing glasses,
True.
to deal with, with visual impairments. And yet there does seem to be this resistance to wearing hearing aids. So I just find that interesting.
Yeah, and
But
you know what? It's actually fashionable to wear glasses now, right?
right,
So
right.
maybe that day will come.
Well, now there's an interesting thought. I
Yeah,
wonder how
could add some stuff. Yeah.
you could do that. So, hey, I also wanted to give a shout out to my father-in-law, David Johnson. It's his birthday today. So
Happy
happy
birthday.
birthday.
And happy
Yeah,
birthday to all the other listeners that are celebrating today. Or maybe you're
indeed.
celebrating Valentine's Day today. A lot of folks didn't do it yesterday because they figure they'll wait. Places will be less busy and they go out today. So I hope that those that are celebrating will have a fun day. Um,
Yeah,
celebrating love.
and there are still lots of Valentine's Day activities out there. One that I know about is at the convention center. There's a wine and chocolate festival going on. I do believe that's a ticketed event, but if you're out and about, and I know a lot of people are trying to hunker down here this afternoon and evening because of the snow, but if you're out and about, that's one thing to check out. I think Casa Larga has their ice wine festival going on this weekend too. So whatever you're doing, folks, get out there, have some fun. But as always, be well and be kind.
Thank you, everybody, for the contributions to this show today. Thank you, sponsors. Folks, I have a quote for you. I think we're going to close the show with a quote every week. This time it's from Mark Twain. Age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Thank you, Mr. Twain. And you knew that seniors rock.